experiences and has been done, directed, and produced by one of you. So he's here, and you can talk to him later when we finish, about how this relates to you and how the video, how bad it is, or how good it is, how you like it, and all those things. Okay? So here we go.
Zoom out still more, and the computer monitor becomes a deficient blur. A pixel alone. The surface is smooth, usable, and maybe even and the loneliness of the pixel comes to light. To think something so stark,
Okay, and applause. Yanni, you want to say anything about your film? Or do you want to say anything, Yanni, about it?
No, I just want to show like how creepy Facebook was, and putting photos on a wall is no different than putting photos on a wall on Facebook. We all can see them. That's actually less creepy because it's private. It's just a different way to show it, and I just want to show that like it's not just guys in a room who can be creepy; it's girls too. That's it.
Okay. Any comments or Brian?
I have a question. Jordan Nadell, is that the Western who works at Apple now?
Yeah, yes.
All right, cool.
There is another one which it also the film also speaks about how we build our identity depending on how we relate to other images and how we are built by other people as much as we build the image of let me see. It's a shorter one that has a philosophical twist.
Is it possible? Sorry, possibly we could just put it in an email. I'm just kind of embarrassed.
Too late. Why? Okay. I'll be fine now. This one here, okay? Short.
I think it's in high school.
Nobody knows. very present day concern.
Nice cufflinks.
Thank you. You wouldn't happen to be an alumnus?
No. God, no. I didn't go to university.
So I guess that was a sarcastic comment then.
No. Not at all. However, pouring out your school like that, well, to each his own, I guess.
You know, I'm good thanks to your own personal critique, okay?
I'm just saying, if you really wanted to impress your future boss, you would have done your homework.
Didn't need to. He studied at Harvard.
Yeah, but he didn't graduate. No. Dropped out. Felt he was surrounded by conformity. All the geniuses do.
Go to Harvard?
No, drop out. It's all in his book. I take it you read his book.
Of course. I've been to 2 of his world-class seminars, spoken to dozens of his colleagues, I even did my thesis on him. This man is not a car salesman, he is an elitist. His book, It's Nothing Business, It's Just Personal, is the modern corporate Bible. Besides being a personal inspiration, this man's a hero. And if you...
A hero? You really think so?
Why not?
Never meet your hero.
Well, why are you telling me all this? I mean, what makes you think you're a shoo-in?
I have his pen.
What?
His pen. Fell out of his coat on the subway. And yes, he rides the subway. I just happened to be sitting a few seats away, saw it and
Stole it.
picked it up.
What does this have to do with his pen?
My pen.
Your pen?
During the interview, when he asked me to sign my name under applicant, I'm going to ask him for a pen. He's going to realize that he's lost his, and oh, forgetful me, I'll pull out mine.
His.
Mine. You see, by that point, he'll be interested in the fact that we both own the same pen. He'll put the interview aside and instead start to ask me questions about the pen, trying to casually figure out if it's his. He'll say how it's a nice pen, a special one. Ask me how long I've had it. I'll say a few years, but as the admiring fan, I'm going to give it to him as a token of my appreciation for the interview. He'll be relieved to have the same pen back, and I'll have already made nice with the boss.
You think you're going to get the job based on the fact that you and the boss share the same taste in pens?
Just like you thought you were going to get the job, based on whether or not the boss likes your cufflinks.
Okay, tell us about the pen.
Sorry?
The pen. Where's that idea coming from?
To be honest, my parents wanted me to apply to Ivy. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I did horse shit. Like, put it together. That was my argument. I got to study arts.
Okay, Ivy people, defend yourselves. Calves or no calves?
A little bit European, I think, but potential. I said European,
No, never know. Okay. Any other comments about filmography, the ideas, the way we portray ourselves?
I really like the theme of the film, like the premise just about how the job interview is not about your qualifications, about the cufflinks to the pen, and I can totally relate to that because I used to think that classrooms is not about like how hard you try or how much you put into the essay. It's about whether or not you sit at the front of class wearing an Argyle sweater vest and look good, because then the teacher will judge you and then give you good marks. I can totally relate.
Is that a subliminal message? Okay. Okay. Any other comments about either of the films? Oh, great ways of telling stories which are relevant, and the first about the idea of how alone we are in this interconnected world, which is something that in different ways some of you have already touched upon in some of your projects when you develop businesses to help people connect, even if we are more connected than ever. And the other video, I think, is much more relevant to you, that you're going to be looking for jobs very soon, and there is this whole culture of how you have to portray yourself from very early on in order to fit into that, either corporate or any kind of job-related world. Okay, so talking about creative things, let's talk about a little bit about Richard Florida. As you know, he's an American sociologist who was hired by the Rodman Business School a few years ago, when he started becoming a very famous author in the author circuit, mainly in North America, but not only, also around the world, because his services are required in many different countries. He has worked mainly in what is called the field of urban sociology, which is a very important field in economic and theoretical terms, because as we said last week, most cities are first all around the world experiencing huge growth in terms of population. So there are many problems about how to accommodate all new people coming into the cities. It's expected that in a few years, most of the population of the world will be living in urban centers, which has never happened in the history of humankind. And it's also related to how you organize socially and culturally all those people. Where do you put them literally in physical space? How do you build infrastructure to accommodate these huge mega cities of millions and millions of people? So someone who works in sociology of urban centers is really on demand. All mayors, all city councils are looking for ideas, for ways to, on the one hand, accommodate the new kind of structures that we're building for these huge populations. On the other hand, how to distinguish yourself as a city from other cities in terms of bringing talent, bringing new people, bringing investments, bringing cultural events that will make young people especially, but also people in what he calls the creative class, stay and make the city really attractive. So he has focused his work in what he has developed as this definition of the creative class. Okay, and we'll go into that a little bit. Basically, it's a concept in the intersection of economy and sociology. And what he says is that the creative class, these demographics with the characteristics that we're going to see in a few minutes, are the key for the good economic development and the integration in cultural, racial, and social terms of any city which want to be successful in the next 30, 40 years. If you don't have enough of a population which can be considered part of the creative class, your city is not going to work. Okay? Because people won't come, because they bring a lot of money, they bring ideas, they bring businesses, and they have done a lot of studies, both quantitative and qualitative, that shows that the most innovative urban centers in the world have big pockets of this kind of population. Okay? But before we go into detail, what's a class? What's a class? Because that idea of the creative class is sort of an oxymoron. Where does the concept class come from? Or if I can ask in a different way, which class do you belong to? Are you part of a class?
I think in a broader sense, when he refers to the creative class, he's talking about a group of people that also share such things in common, such as like geography, because that's a key component too of socioeconomics, and kind of all those factors that normally go into the class of people in terms of their socioeconomic status, all those factors, but instead applied to mindset and abilities within the sense of like creativity.
Okay. Remember that originally we were supposed to be divided economically in three main classes in the Western world. The proletariat, which is the low class, working in repetitive jobs with no education or little training, and belonging to the big industries of the first industrial revolution. You have seen those films in black and white of people in the factories of England just doing repetitive work one time after another. The model of the Ford production chain in Detroit. All those people with little education, with no possibilities of going up in economic terms, would belong to what traditionally was called a class, an economic and social class, which is a concept that comes from Marxist theory and sociology of the 19th century. Okay? So basically there were three classes, and if you counted aristocracy, there would be a fourth one. So then we will have the middle class, which in general terms is where we all belong, and has been proven that countries with the highest conditions of living, the highest standards of living, are all characterized because they have a large social class, medium class, middle class. Okay, a class in terms of population much larger than the two extremes of the proletariat or the low class and the elite in economic terms. This is changing as we have entered into the 21st century, and in most developed countries the size of the middle class is shrinking dramatically, creating many problems in terms of, as we said, providing social services, providing health, education, and letting these people in the middle class go up, which was something that up to your generation, all previous generations, at least in the second half of the 20th century up to now, have guaranteed. So in many cases, for instance, your families, either your father or your mother, they were the first generation to go to the university. And by doing that, they would provide the children new opportunities that the grandparents never had. So society had a built-in system for people to go up economically and socially, creating stimuli for people to participate in society, be good citizens, take a good deal of effort in everything we did, etc. That's changing at the beginning of the 21st century as a result of all these changes and of the economic crisis and the financial crisis that we are suffering. And in most countries, what is going on now is that the lower portion of the middle class is getting lower and lower and lower into a sort of dampened proletariat that we didn't have before. Okay? People who are running out of social services, who are kicked out of educational system, people who are unemployed, and so that they don't have access to all these mechanisms to provide either for them or better standards of living through effort, through educational system for the children. And what we are having is a smaller and smaller percentage of the population, 1% now, that is owing like 30–40% of the whole richness of countries. Okay, something that was much better spread through the middle class and even throughout the higher class. We have a 10% having at least 20% of the income. Okay, but not the amounts that we are seeing in these first 10–13 years of the 20th century. And what we had when we moved from what is called the ancien regime, the old regime before the French Revolution, and the new modern economies and societies of the 19th and 20th century, is that the aristocracy completely disappeared. These people who had rights because of their last name and because they have lands in most Western countries, and they have been passed from generation to generation to generation, that's almost non-existent anymore. Not completely, because there are certain families and certain names in Europe and in North America that still carry that kind of image and weight in the society and the economy. If you see in terms of class, that elite, which was related to one another, would make the monarchs of Europe. If you realize how that's working now, the social role that they play in terms of providing models for people to behave, for people to dress, for people to do things for the nation, that has been replaced from the 50s, a little earlier, but the 50s on up to today, by what we call celebrities. Now, celebrities who can come from wherever, through the systems of publicity, marketing, and media-oriented society that we have, are the ones providing the roles, good and bad, for society, are becoming a group in itself. What I wanted to highlight is that originally being part of a class was considered negative, because you would be normally, because of the statistical questions, part of the working class. And then you would have the artists. But the artists were individuals, or groups, or generations, when they were working on the same movement, on the avant-garde, or on expressionism, on whatever. But they would never be considered a class, because a class is the opposite of the individual. A class is a group of people with the same characteristics. The artist is the one that stands out by himself or by herself because of the genius-like characteristic and the creation that they are able to produce. They live in a different economic system. They don't have to go to work every day from 9 to 5. They live completely different. So what Richard Florida did was create a very ingenious concept in which he would put together the two things. The creative part that would have some resonance with the idea that these are people who are basically basing their economic existence on their ability to create, to invent, to do new things, but at the same time they are a class. So they are all homogeneous, they're all the same. And that contradiction has attracted a lot of attention because of what he implies of this possibility of having these huge groups of population being creative and at the same time producing at the levels that we need to sustain the economic development that we want for our societies. Okay? So before Richard Florida, thinking of creative and class in the same sentence would have been really difficult. We have to analyze to what extent that's possible, or whether what we are creating is people with certain skills related somehow to innovation and inventions that are becoming the new workers of the 21st century. Workers in the sense of having to go to work from 9 to 5 or whatever it is. Remember that we saw how these creative people working in Yahoo and Google and all these places, they're happy about going to work, but they don't do anything else. Even off days, they go to the office. So are they workers? Are they creative? Are they similar to artists? This image of the artist, of Picasso, of Dalí, of all these people, of this musician who have basically a free life without any timetables, without doing anything but producing, having fun, doing all these things. Is it possible to be part of a creative class? Or in order to be really creative, you have to be on your own, dictating your own rules, your own norms, the way you work, how you work, where you work. Okay? So this is the dilemma now. I think that the problem is not as much related to whether or not we need these groups of workers. We need them, especially if we want to compete with countries who are able to do better and cheaper manufacturing than we are. But the question is, how being part of this group of people working in these economic sectors, you are able to stand out and apart and enjoy and really live that creative side of life that will make you happier than just being part of this homogeneous class, even if it's called the creative class. Okay? So the argument by Florida starts making reference to what is called what he calls the creative ethos. Ethos is a work of Greek origin related to ethics, and comes from the ethics by Aristotle. And ethos basically is what we would call the character, or the main soul, but not the main soul in physical terms. Is in ethics, there is a process by which, when you want to change your psychology, you want to become something different in moral terms, you start, like in any training or process of physical training, you start repeating the acts that you think are beneficial to you. And you repeat those acts over and over until they become what psychologists and experts on ethics call a habit. Aristotle would say that a habit is your second nature, because after practice you are not able to distinguish that second nature, that habit, from what you were before. It becomes part of what you are. You don't have to think about it. You just do it that way. Okay? And once you have implemented that over and over again, you would make that become your own soul, your own psyche, your own mind. That would be your ethos. Okay? What some philosophers did in the 19th century, especially in German countries, is to start talking about societies and nations as having an ethos. Those characteristics which were completely different from those of other countries. So for instance, in the south of Europe, the ethos of people is just to enjoy life and have fun and all this. And in Germany, we are romantics and we like to work. And these are the characteristics of the people. Okay? So he's using that idea of this ethos, this soul of a whole people, of a whole group, to transfer it to the economy. And say that there is something called the creative ethos. This second nature that you have been able to imprint into your own habits. Okay? Will give you that spirit, that character. And what he says is that if a society is not like that yet, the objective through the creative class, through these groups of people, is to make it, in terms of the ethos, creative. Okay? So the only way forward in economic and social terms is that we put in place the mechanisms, economic and social, to make the creation, the creativity, the main characteristic of our societies. Okay? So we have to imprint that into Ontario, into Canada. We have to be the creative nation. Okay? His argument is, as I say, economic and social. He says that creativity is essential to the way we live and work today. Not only because we are connected to all these things and it's very difficult to be doing works in repetitive terms because they don't produce much, but also because we cannot compete in other areas of the economy at a global level. So the only thing that we have a little better yet, because that distance, that gap is also shrinking, is we produce more knowledge and better knowledge than some other regions of the world. And that's not enough even. The only way to keep producing that is to keep inventing faster than the others. To have a large population of people creating ideas and at some point making those ideas into entrepreneurial ventures that will give the money. Okay? Either by licensing the ideas or the products, or just by selling those business ventures to other people, or just producing and making money out of it. We cannot compete putting together toys, because in China they do it better, and all those things. But maybe we can produce a better kind of airplane, a better engine, or a better software, or a better way of doing certain things. Okay? So that the idea is that have enough people so that we keep producing those ideas, that kind of knowledge. Okay? As we have said before, human creativity is multifaceted and multidimensional, and has many factors that we don't really control yet, that we are still learning how to implement. But he focused on organizations, either institutions like the university or companies, small or big. And he says that for him, the main dilemma we're suffering today is how to balance the risks of creativity in a company, in an institutional structure, with the tendency to control the risks that the organization is facing at every single moment. So where do you put the balance between giving your people total liberty, total freedom to do whatever they want, because out of that the company will benefit, and how do you control the risks inherent to that liberty? And the idea that companies still have to produce and they have to sell, so they have to manage the company. Can you manage creativity? Can you give it just free rein and do whatever they want to people? How do you balance that? Again, let's go back to the example of Marisa Mayer emailing all workers and say, telecommuting is over, now we are all working together again. If you think it from this perspective, it's a completely different way of managing the risks of creativity and manage the production system of the company. And they do that by creating these open spaces, these offices, in which they provide food, they provide drinks, they provide everything that workers of certain age and groups want and are attracted to. And they use that, these companies, to attract these creative people, give them complete freedom in terms of they don't have to go at 9 to work, they don't have to leave at 5. They have complete freedom as long as the groups in which they were in the company produce the results. But for the company, what they see, as Steve just said, is that workers stay there longer and longer and longer. They come to the office, the days don't have to come. So it's a nice way through the organization of a space and the customs that the company try to imprint as part of their ethos, that at the end they are able to get more results in terms of productivity from the workers. So it's a good way of solving this issue about managing the organization and letting people be creative and free. Remember the Free Fridays that Google put in fashion a few years ago. So one day that people can do whatever they want. They don't have to work for the company. But out of that free day, they are able to get so many products that will benefit the company later on. Okay? The basic idea in any case is that if we want to survive at the levels of the standards of living that we have today, we have to embrace this idea that the new economic system is going to be a creative economic system. Either we create and we produce innovation, or we'll die, we'll perish in the process. Okay? Which dimensions of creativity highlights Richard Florida? Many of them we have already seen, and what you have to do here basically is which of these abilities are related to what you are learning at university, and how can you improve that? First, the abilities to synthesize. Huge amounts of information that you need to synthesize, process, and the second part, communicate in an easy and clear way. So many formats. In a pitch, in a video, in a story, in text, depending on the audience you have. Being able to make all those translations is one of the keys of this creative class. What is it that I have to process? Who's going to listen to it? What's the best way to do it? Okay? That's one of the main things. Self-assurance and ability to take risks. We have seen that for entrepreneurs, for many of the cases that we have seen, one of the main things is how you embrace your own fears, how you dare to take those risks, those positive risks that will help you move forward. Either it's in entrepreneurship or in any other social experiment. Still, the creative process is very elusive. Doing the same things, sometimes we have good results, sometimes we don't have so very good results. And in all the processes, we require, no matter how we call it, in the different methodologies, preparation, the incubation process, all that time in which you are thinking and learning about something, in many cases isolated or just reflecting on some idea and trying to get knowledge about it. That illumination moment in which finally you see it in an image, you say, okay, there is something here. Okay? And then the process of verification, either through customer validation, through trying to develop a prototype, those later phases of creativity that we have seen several times. As any complex process, creativity is multidimensional, so it's very difficult to really put into a jar and make into a formula. Okay, that's why it's so valuable, because it's difficult to replicate. what many people and many societies are trying to do is to replicate the conditions under which creativity seems to flourish. So they are creating incubators, they are creating these spaces in companies, they are giving freedom to workers, they're trying to put money in terms of investments. All these things that in many cases are very positive, in some cases they don't go anywhere. But in general, as an average, apparently those are the conditions that we need as individuals and as groups in this society to make things creative. And the second part is experimental. Just having ideas, it's very interesting, but if you don't prove them, if you don't try them, if you don't prototype, you don't see really thing works in a specific context, doesn't have any value. Now the negative part, creativity is not that fun anymore. It's work. Basically, it's work. Okay? It can take a long time. Anyone who have been in a creative process knows all the feelings about having the first idea that is going to probably being received positively, that you're going to be able to do something out of it, but how long it takes in many cases to be able to have a second or a third idea. Okay? How long that it takes. It's largely driven by intrinsic reward. That's clear. Doesn't matter if you have money at the end, although money is very important, or recognition. Creative people do those things because they have to. That's their drive. That's their kick. Okay? And that's what makes them work the long hours and come out with a new idea when the first one doesn't work, or even if that work, and all those things. It's a social process. Remember the first definition we gave as creativity as the most important social skill, not as an individual genius-based kind of thing that was to be characterized before. Flourishes in a unique kind of social environment. You have, as I said, all these incubators and smart places and social spaces for hackers, for entrepreneurs. I don't know if some of you have been connected to a new space they have created in USC. It's called Biznic. Biznic, that is helping people to develop their ideas into business ventures, and that is having some success. Okay, so there are places like this everywhere now, and somehow it's the social environment that we can replicate to make this work. And the last thing is very difficult to sustain over long periods of time, either at the individual level or as a collective. Okay, now here his main definition. We are in a phase of late capitalism characterized, according to Richard Florida, by what he calls the creative economy. He says, I see creativity, the creation of useful new forms out of knowledge, as the key driver. So as we said, knowledge is the asset that we have, and being able to produce better and more knowledge is the key to our economic system. In my formulation, knowledge and information are the tools and materials of creativity. Innovation, whether in the form of a new technological artifact or a new business model or method, is its product. So the thing starts with information and with knowledge. And from there you translate it into a specific innovation, and that will be the product. What he's trying to show is that there is a whole circuit in which you have to connect universities, colleges, and centers of research and production of knowledge to this second part, which this knowledge and information that are the materials of creativity will become innovative products. So you connect all that part with entrepreneurs that will make it into a product viable in a social context or in a specific market. And putting together all this circuit is what all governments are trying to do. Change the conditions in which we learn and what we learn, how we produce knowledge. There has been quite some debate about the budget that the Harper government published last week, and whether or not putting all the money of science and research into applied science is positive for the economy is positive for science, or on the contrary, is going to really hurt the possibilities of the country in the long term, because we are not investing enough in what is called basic science, this part of knowledge and information from which sometimes we don't produce anything in the long term. Okay? So it has to be everything applied or not. But what is clear is you have to connect all these dots. You need people creating ideas, advancing science. One of the most important cases, for instance, is the case of Michael Lazaridis in Waterloo, that after being so successful with RIM, he created the Perimeter Institute for Physics, something which is devoted to theoretical physics, and from which apparently people thought nothing will come out, because they are discussing the origin of the universe and things like that. But he's also, apart from that not being completely true, he's also investing in the next round of scientific discoveries around quantum computing. And from that, they are already seeing companies coming out. Probably the most important revolution that we're going to see in business and computer in the next decade or so. So there's this whole circuit of bringing people from all over the world to produce physics, and from physics, all these businesses and investors putting money and trying to make products out of these inventions. As I said, the circuit is what matters here, putting all those dots together. Oh no. Okay, when he's talking about the creative class, he focused his attention in certain data that he extracted mainly from the States, that says that professional artists, writers, and performers, bohemians, which by most people are considered lazy guys who won't make a living ever, increased from some 200,000 in 1900 to over half a million in 1950, and to 2.5 million in 1999. Probably many more now. This is a change that you've seen very well reflected in series like Mad Men. How a new class of creative people, in that case around the marketing industry and the magazines, emerges starting in the 50s. And that completely went in all directions until today, in which we have people in software, in writing, in circus, in so many things. Okay? So why is it that the economy demands so many people from this sector? That's what he's wondering about. The basis of the creative class is economic, he says. I define it as an economic class, and argue that its economic function both underpins and informs its members' social, cultural, and lifestyle choices. Here's where he's talking about those parameters, those features that we all share as part of the same class. The creative class consists of people who add economic value through their creativity. It thus includes a great many knowledge workers, symbolic analysts, and professional and technical workers, but emphasizes their true role in the economy. My definition of class emphasizes the way people organize themselves into social groupings and common identities, based principally on their economic function. Their social and cultural preferences, consumption and buying habits, and their social identities all flow from this. All these features flow from how they identify themselves as creative workers. Okay? And in creative workers, he talks of a whole range of professions and people who go from a hairdresser, who is an entrepreneur working in her or his own business, and who creates some kind of art or technique through making people more beautiful, to people working in software industries, researchers, people in marketing, people in design, all these professions that are so in need these days. And he says that all these people share more than that everything stems from what they do and the fact that they identify themselves with that. In many of the cases in history, people would not identify themselves with what they did in terms of work. Actually, they thought that they start being a person when they finish the day of work at 5. Today is the opposite. People identify themselves with what the thing they do at work, and work starts occupying the whole identity of the person. This is why we have these debates about whether we have to go to work on weekends, on the day off, when we're talking about Google and the article in the New York Times, or the debate about female executives and whether or not they should have leave or not when they have children. Because if you identify yourself not as a mother, but as a worker, are you supposed to enjoy that and being doing that all the time? Or do you have other priorities? And then you have all this debate about the CEO of Facebook and the debate about how many days Marisa Mayer should have taken as her leave when he gave birth early in the year, etc., etc., etc. How do you portray yourself? What makes yourself, your life meaningful and fulfilling for you? Your work, your life at home, what? Because before it was, you had a space outside in which you go to museums, to art, to holidays, to all those parts that would enhance your creative part. But now you have that, you do that from 9 to 5 in your work. So how do you balance that? How do you create your own identity? That's the debate that he's posing here. Who are these people in the creative class? Two components mainly. He says that there is a super core component, super creative core component, who are producing new forms or design that are readily transferable and widely used. What we could call the elite of the creative class. Okay? They work on problem solving and especially problem finding. And remember that this is always the most important part, and this is where the money is. Finding good problems, not solving them. Solving them too, but creative professionals who work in a wide range of knowledge-intensive industries. Probably most of the people working in downtown Toronto belong to this class. And what they are required to do regularly is think on their own. They are not subject to a routine. They have to think on their own to create things that don't exist yet for society or for their companies. And then you have the service creative class. People who are in all these small businesses that we need for society to function, but will have very difficult to access the creative class. In many cases, they still are doing repetitive jobs, but jobs that we need in supermarkets, in factories, in airports, in driving taxis, in all these things. So basically what he's portraying is a society completely bipolar in terms of what you can do according to your own skills and your preparation. Either you belong to the core, the creative core, or you belong to the service class, to this second category. Creative class values are mainly individuality. You want to stand out by yourself. You don't conform. Okay? People who value meritocracy. They don't want other kinds of scales based on your money or who you are connected to, but what you are able to do, your own merits, and you want to be able to be valued by that. Diversity, and that's very important in social terms, as we will see later, and openness, another thing that we have seen before. But openness to people, to other cultures, to experiences, to things that you don't understand. Exactly because you don't understand them, you have to throw yourself into them, because otherwise the range of knowledge that you're going to produce is always very limited, because your brain is made out of your experiences, how much and what sides of the world you have been exposed to. And luckily the world is always larger than our lives and ourselves. So diversity and openness are always really, really important. So he summarizes this in what he calls the 3 T's. He says that all cities and urban centers in which there is a huge creative potential and associated to that important economic development fostered by innovation, populations are characterized by these 3 T's: technology, talent, and tolerance. Okay? Neo-siders, immigrants are welcome, well received, and with very easy mechanisms to integrate them into the life of the place. He came up, I don't know if he came up or he participated in the creation of what he called the gay index. Why? Because they have measured and analyzed in sociological terms a lot of cities and populations around the world. And they have seen that every single urban place in which there is a lot of money and a lot of creativity and a lot of technology have a very important gay community. Very well integrated, with a lot of freedom, and with their own neighborhoods and communities to really develop. And in some cases, like in Toronto and other urban centers, he has tested how when an important group of gay people from this creative sector move into a new part of the city, the value of the properties and the aspect of the whole neighbor changes very fast, making the whole zone richer and richer and richer. Okay? Because mainly all these people work in those creative sectors. They are all independent professionals or entrepreneurs. Okay? So there is a lot of data in that respect. A strong predictor for a region's high-tech industry concentration. Okay? You can just check it on the internet, any place, Silicon Valley, Toronto, any place. The Bohemian Index. Remember, those are writers, musicians, all these people. And think of places like Nashville. Who would go to Nashville like 20, 30 years ago? Nobody. Now someone who wants to be someone in music, they don't have any problem to go to Nashville, among other places. Or Montreal. The musical scene in Montreal is amazing because they have this high concentration of Bohemian people, and they have their groups and their communities to be able to really grow into their art and into their industry. Another important strong predictor. Okay, so he comes up with this statement about the importance of lowering the barriers to entry for talent and creating a society which is very open and very creative. Something that we are very good at in some cases in Canada, in other cases we are not so good. Remember the case of professionals, doctors and all these people who are not able to practice here and have similar education to the education that we give here, we receive here, but they cannot practice and they are driving taxis. One of the most contradictory cases we have here is that, for instance, if you come from Colombia and you are a dentist, you cannot practice until you pass, I don't know how many exams. Okay? But you know what they can do? They can teach our dentist students here at the faculty. They cannot practice, but they can teach the future dentist students. And that has to do with the way in which professional bodies, the colleges of physicians and dentists, control the access to the profession and create a regulated process that in some cases produces this kind of contradictions. Okay? So opening this and attracting people, no matter what. Remember, why is the United States the most important country in education and research and innovation in the world? Because after the Second World War, they have received and attracted and poached any talent coming from anywhere in the world. And they keep doing that. The famous brain drain, they have been doing that forever. Most of teachers in American universities are from abroad. That's changing because now there are many other countries creating the same systems to attract people, especially China. And in the case of China and India, they are producing PhDs at a speed that will catch up with the States and Western countries in 10 years. So they are already producing more PhD in STEM disciplines that we are. And that's supposed to be connected with possibilities of economic development in the near future, okay, as their economies and their societies are changing. But think about these 3 T's. When you think, for instance, about a small village compared to London, but even London has a lot of problems to retain young people with Toronto, okay? For instance, how visible is the gay community here in London, Ontario? Not much, not much. and that has to do with many things. But as Florida and his team has proven, it's a very strong indicator of what's going on in economic terms, of how much of these creative people there is here. Why would I stay here if I'm a gay person, an entrepreneur, or a young professional, if life for me is not the kind of life that I want to live? I will move to Montreal or to Toronto or to Vancouver, in which I will have my own community and my own networks, and I will live that kind of lifestyle. Okay? Any questions? No? Okay. You will see another another presentation like this in the website, which connects the second part of his research, the second book that he wrote about this, and that connects the creative class and the city, and what he calls the mega urban centers, and all these corridors that are making the economic lungs of the world. We belong to one that apparently starts in Buffalo and goes all the way to Toronto, to Ottawa, and Montreal, and making that sustainable in terms of economic infrastructure, population connection, sports. Remember that the football team of Buffalo comes to Toronto from time to time to play, and there are certain things connected in terms, for instance, in terms of the network of high computing that we have in southern Western Ontario, also connected to the one they have in Buffalo. There are many things going on because they have realized that the only way to compete is to make a structure large enough in economic and demographic terms. So Toronto is not large enough in those terms. So we are creating in all the world, like the corridor in Silicon Valley, the corridor in Boston, Singapore. All these centers are developing in terms of mega urban technological places, okay, that make the place flourish in these terms. So you have all the main ideas in the website for you to review, okay? What I'm gonna do now is show you this, which is how to create your story with Lyre for the last assignment, okay? I don't know if we can go here. Okay, so it will be a few steps. It's relatively easy to do something there. It's more difficult to do something nice because you have to put some creative time and some design into it. Okay, but the tool is very easy. What you need to do is go to lyre.com, and there you'll have to go to Lyre Create. Okay, that's one part of the work. That's where you are going to work. Okay, on the computer, basically. But then, in order to see it, you need to download the Lyre app into your phone. Okay, works for Android and for iPhone. I don't know if they say that sometimes things work in other operating systems and sometimes they don't. If you need some telephone to check your own thing, we have telephones in my lab for you to check your work. Okay, but that's after, once you have done it or when you want to test it. Most of the work is done in the computer. Okay, so I'm going to show you what you have to do there. Okay. You register, you use Lyre Creator, and you go to the free option, okay? The free option is free with publicity. So we'll show ads as you see in YouTube when you have a free account, and they show you videos at the same time that you're watching anything. Unless you want to pay. If you want to pay whatever they ask, it will be ad-free. But don't go, unless you want, don't go to the free, to the payment option for this essay, okay?
Lyre Creator, anyone can easily add visual content. The first step is to upload the page. You use either individual JPEGs or PNG files, or upload them both with PDFs into the files. Just find your file and hit submit. Once it loads, you'll see a screen that lets you pick which pages you want to edit with. Just pick them and hit Add Selected Pages. The second step is to add content. In the left side, you'll see the list of pages you picked. Choose the one you want to work on. And on the right side, you'll see both our standard buttons and our custom buttons. But for this case, we're just going to use the YouTube button. Just drag it and drop it wherever you want it. Then just copy and paste the YouTube URL and click Apply Changes. You can resize the button, move it around, then save your page and go back to the campaign overview to publish your campaign. And everything's all ready to go. Now, whenever you view that page with Layer, you'll see the content come up right on top. We also have detailed statistics so you can follow your campaigns and see how they're doing. You can follow data within a specific date range, download the data in a CSV file, or even drill down into button and page level stats. Our statistics make it really easy to instantly measure the effect of your campaigns across the globe.
So now a couple of ideas. Campaign and page. Campaign is the main object concept that they use. Okay? So what you create when you create something on Layer is a campaign, which is a set of pages that you're going to use collectively. Okay? They are called campaigns because it's related to the business model they have and how they use this for publicity, in the same way that Google puts ads into videos of other people, etc. Okay, so you will create a campaign. We'll go into more detail now. And the campaign has pages. Okay, we'll show you a few pages now. So what do you have to do? Campaign is like a document. It's like the folder in which you will put the pages. Okay, but they call it campaign. Okay, you have to design and write your story, and that's something that you have to do on paper or on word processor, on video, whatever you want. That's previous to getting into Layer. So you have to know what you're going to say and how you are going to say it. Okay? Create. I think that instead of a PDF, Javier, it's a JPEG or a PNG better, isn't it? Okay, because we have checked that the PDFs don't work very well. That is what will make the pages. Okay? So create a PNG or a JPEG of the whole page that you are going to create. Right? Integrate your story into a campaign in Layer. So you have this page that you have made into a picture, PNG or JPEG, and you will upload it to your Layer dashboard. As I said, a campaign is the basic working unit for them. It's like document or with a folder or whatever you want to call it. You can put as many pages as you want in a single campaign. And if you have several campaigns, you can mix them up and use the same page in different campaigns and all that. That depends on whether or not you have several projects going on. Then you will choose the type of buttons that you want for your pages. And that means you want to link to a website, you want to link to a video, you want to link to a soundtrack, to a picture, you want to insert a GPS coordinates, whatever you want to do. Okay? There are different buttons for you to pick. They are already set. They are already a set of them pre-designed. If you feel very artistry and you are good with design, you can design your own buttons. Okay? So that they are just for your own use. And then you choose the type of action for the buttons. As I say, when I put the telephone in front of the button, it's going to show me a website or a video or a soundtrack and what is it. That depends on you. Okay? Okay? So basically what you have to do in creative terms is coordinate the story you are telling in the main page with the augmented reality that you are putting into the buttons, so that you have a two-tier kind of story going on at the same time. And you have to seamlessly integrate both of them into a single narrative, into that story, that unique story that you're going to tell. Okay? This is a story. It's a story about your childhood. Whether you make it up or not, it's your problem, because since I don't know your childhood, I will never find out. Okay? You pick the theme, the genre, and the way you want to tell it. That's up to you. That's where your design creative engines will kick in. Minimum length is 4 pages. Maximum is, depends on you. Okay? 4 pages into a single campaign. So the story, the title of the story is the title of what they call the campaign. Always think of what is it that you want to tell and make it as economic as possible. Economic means that after you have, like in an essay, the thing that gives normally more quality to an essay, as any writer, as any poet would say, is what you do when you have finished. It's what you cut out. When you think, normally what we think is, I'm not able to write 20 pages. That's impossible. And when you get to the 18 or 20, you are so happy. I have been able to produce something long, or 30, whatever. But the job is not finished there. The job is when you go back and you read it as an external reader, someone who didn't write that, and start cutting and leaving what it's basic. And it's said in the most important way. Okay? So maybe it's 4 pages that you need to tell your story. Maybe it's 10. But always try to go back to eliminate that extra fat that you don't really need. Okay? To make it a really lean, direct, emotional story. As I say, upload each page as PNG or JPEG, because PDFs don't work, or at least don't work always very well. And on that page, you put the augmented reality elements that you want. For instance, an original soundtrack that will reflect what the image is saying. Okay? So I will have the image and some text written about, I don't know, what you were doing that day when you were 8 years old, and you associate that with certain music. So you use the augmented reality element to insert some kind of music. And I'll read the text, I'll see the image, and I will put the telephone on top of it, and I will be able to access the audio track. Okay? Soundtrack, video, picture, links, whatever you think will really enhance the story that you are saying. Okay? Grading. The story, impact, emotions, and depth, 40%. Techniques, and that has to do with the originality of content. It's very easy to build a page or a story using videos and music by someone else, just copying, or using a URL that directs you to a certain page. Evidently, if you, on top of everything, you create these resources that has more creative into it and will be more appealing. And then, finally, how do you integrate all these technologies? And by all these technologies, I count writing as a technology of culture that you have to manage and master in order to be effective in your message. But the same thing with the augmented reality, the videos, the picture, how you integrate all those things. Okay? Just one more video before I show you something. You have all the addresses there. All the URLs in case you want to go back and
here's a quick guide for using Layer Create.
The connection.
Here. Start by
Okay, it's gonna take us a little one. In the meantime, I'll show you an example, low quality of a campaign or a story. Okay, I'm telling you what I did this morning, and I have created these images. Okay, it has the format of an image, and you will have to print it out at the end. So this assignment, the delivery is printed. You have to handle it in physical terms. We need this. Okay. So Nishan, I need a. Okay. I say the first equivalent of the first photogram of a story. I wake up early in the morning, and then I'll take my Liar app, which is free. Okay, let me close this. Let me close this. Then I'll put this on the picture, and some of you are able to see that I get a button to listen. Okay?
So you're doing it with your phone?
Yeah. Just the camera of the telephone. So you have to put it at enough distance so that it will recognize. You can place the button wherever you want. And then I listen to the whatever you relate to your state of mind when you wake up in the morning. Okay? So let me get some more. Okay? So now I have listened to this, and I'll go to the next image. I get dressed, as all of you do in the morning, and then what I have is two images, two suits that I have to choose from to wear this morning. Okay, you see the suits here, and then I can close. Let me see. It's supposed to work like a slider. Anyway, there is another suit here. It doesn't matter, okay? There are two shoes, and it's showing that you can choose one of them, or whatever you want from the images. So the first resource we have used is an audio track. These are images within the image, okay? And then the third chapter of my story is that I go to work. If you see, when I haven't identified anything yet, you have this thing which says there's a sign there with a scan button. So if the first time you are not able to identify where your button is, just wait for this to show up, and as soon as you have something, it says scan. I'll press scan, and it's looking for the nothing found. Okay, let me see. Scan. There's a wheel there looking for. And we have a YouTube video inserted here. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking about when I'm riding my bike to work. And the YouTube player will come up with the selection you have done. Okay, just take a second or two to stream. Okay, this is just an example of what we use. The important thing is that you can use an existing YouTube or something that you upload to YouTube, or a video that you create and link directly from your account into your button. So it's shown here. Okay? The other thing, important thing, since there are a lot of users of Lyre around the world, some people use the same images, this kind of image, to create their campaigns. But if you use something like the Coca-Cola logo or something very much in use by many people, the system won't recognize what you have put on top of it. So try to be original and creative in your selection of these images, because otherwise it's not going to work. The system is going to get confused about what it is that the system has to show, because there are many people using the same kind of icon as the background.
Are we supposed to be writing a story or use like pictures?
The statement says telling a story.
Pardon?
Telling a story. The format you choose. There has been some.
So it could be literally like that?
Yes.
Like pictures with like a...
In any case, you have to convert whatever you write to a picture. Because this is
how the site works.
Exactly. That's why I said a PDF is already low. It's also low, but doesn't work very well. So it works better when you have an image. You have seen in the magazine that they show. The magazine is called Lyre, which is a real magazine. They show the cover, which is a whole image, and that's what they are showing there.
Oh right. So the written words will be an image.
Will be inserted as part of the image at the end. Do you know what I mean?
So you're supposed to actually have pictures though as our assignments that we hand in?
Okay, there are two kinds of pictures. This is a picture.
I know, like a photograph like that is what I mean. Are we supposed to hand in like things?
No. It's an image. You can make it out of whatever you want. It can be a black image with text, if you want, and then insert the images within.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay. Yeah. So we're replicating the language. So this is an image because it has to be. It's a PNG or JPEG format. Okay. And then inside it, you can put images as the one of the suit that we were showing before. Okay? Yeah. Just bear with me for a minute. Sabrina.
I think kind of like my question goes along with that. Like, so instead of like, when you say 4 pages, it doesn't necessarily mean like a 4-page paper, because if you put like a page of text with just a couple pictures, it wouldn't work as well as if it was like more picture-based.
Yes. So pages, this is a page.
So that could like, okay.
These are pages.
Okay. But like more image-based is better than more text-based?
No, depends on what you want to tell.
Okay.
But remember that the format of the page has to be image format.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Okay, doesn't matter if within you have built text like this or images. Okay?
The whole thing be text or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the format that counts.
Yeah.
So that the system can read it. Okay? More questions? Be creative, don't be shy. Okay? Before we finish, you have all these videos from Lyre concentrated in our presentation, so that we are clear about what's left of your life with me. Connection. Okay, we have 2.5 weeks to go. So this is how it's structured. Trying to make your life a little easier. Okay, practical classes will be held this Thursday and next Tuesday for 2 hours each in my lab. Okay, so we won't have classes here. You need help with the Lyre assignment or with the other assignment, internationalization. All of us will be there to assist you in moving the projects forward. Okay? So it's 2 hours on Thursday, 2 hours next Tuesday. If you email us in advance so we can set you up in different time slots, that will be much easier so that you don't have to wait there. Okay? If you are fine and you don't need any help, feel free not to come. Okay?
Tuesday is actually April 2nd.
Okay, sorry, Tuesday is April 2nd. Okay, next week. Next Tuesday. Okay? Again, email us to set your time slot if you need help. Lectures. Next Thursday, we have Mark Daly, who's a professor of computer science and cognitive neuroscience here. And he's also a composer and a musician, teaching about digital creativity and collaborative software. A very interesting thing that they have developed and try to make the life of musicians and composers easier when they try to collaborate in creating new music. So, and this is a really interesting guy. There are so few guys that I can say that they are almost genius. Mark is one of them. Extremely brilliant in all aspects. Okay, so I have sat in his classes, and he's really good. Okay, our presentation 1, last Tuesday of class. Marks for both assignments, Liar and internationalization, will be based on the document that you produce. Okay? But since some of you are in need for marks for several reasons, what we have come up with is this. The internationalization assignment will be orally evaluated regardless of your mark in the written portion. The pitch and the presentation and the idea will be separately evaluated for 10 selected teams, and I reserve the right to select the teams. Okay? You can turn it down if you don't want to. The selected teams, the members who present and get a mark over 75% in the presentation, in the oral presentation, will get an extra 5% mark in the overall grade of the class, of the course. Okay? And I will try to bring a team of people involved with internationalization at the university to really judge the quality of the projects at that level. Okay? And the same thing will happen on the last day of classes, Thursday, April 11th, I think it is. 10 selected augmented reality essays, regardless of the mark that you get in the written submission. People who participate here and get over 75% in the oral presentation will get 5% bonus in the final mark of the class.
Isn't that the day they're due, though?
Yeah.
That's due that day. We're gonna, if people who want to participate in that will have to hand it on Tuesday. Okay, I'll send an email for that because we don't have any more days. If you don't want to participate in this, Thursday is okay. Okay, so I'll send a reminder about people who want to participate in this to hand the augmented reality essays on Tuesday. Okay? Any questions? No? Email us for Thursday, please, before you come. Thank you.
Sorry, Juan.
Yes?
If, say you want to do these presentations, what is the deadlines again?
For